Hello everybody, it's Kara from Wild Book Garden, and today I'm here with a desperate attempt to catch up on some of the tags I have been tagged in. As you guys know, if you've seen some of these before, I really enjoy doing tags, and I try to make them more like recommendations videos. Like, I won't just like hold up the book, I'll actually try and, you know, pick a good variety of books, so hopefully they don't get too repetitive. And today I'm actually combining two tags that I was tagged in, and they're both music related. The first is the Rocketman book tag, which was created by Charlotte Benton, who's also the one who tagged me. And then the second one is the concert book tag, which was created by As Read by Brooke, and I was tagged by Taylor from Page Screen Taylor. So I will link the originals and the people who tagged me down below. Let's just get into it. I only have a few of the books here with me, even though I own most of these. It was just too hard to get to them. So starting off with the Rocketman book tag, the first question is Elton John, a standout character in the LGBT community. And I wanted to talk about the main character from Quicksilver by R.J. Anderson. This book does have a sexual representation. Our main character is Ace, and I'm realizing as I'm talking that maybe this wasn't a great one to feature in a tag, because this is a companion book and it is really, really hard to talk about it without spoiling a lot of things from the first book. So I'll just try and keep it kind of general. But I really, really loved this main character. I really enjoyed like the way the romance subplot was handled. I think it was done with a lot of care and sensitivity. And I really liked the actual plot. It was very engaging. I liked the way this book connects with the first book, which is Ultraviolet. And this is one of those series that it's really hard to talk about, like I said, without spoiling, so try not to, I don't want to say don't look at reviews, because obviously everybody can decide how much information they want, but I feel like it's one of those series where it's very easy to find out too much about them. So I guess just like, if you know that you like similar kinds of characters and stories to me, then you could maybe look into these. Sorry, that was a really vague answer. I promise the other ones are going to have more information. The second question is John Reed, the emotionally abusive / manipulative character. And I know that some people disagree with this, and I understand, but I am going to mention Rochester from Jane Eyre. As you guys know, Jane Eyre is one of my least favorite classics, one of my least favorite books in general, and one of the big reasons is Rochester. Like, the difference for me between like this book and let's say like Wuthering Heights, which also has a very toxic romance, is I feel like Jane Eyre is trying to sell you on the romance, whereas Wuthering Heights and other books aren't. I just find Mr. Rochester absolutely like reprehensible. I hate the way he treats Jane, the way he talks to her. Like, even when he's like flirting with her, it's like really, it's almost like negging. Like, he is just awful, and I hate the way he treats his ward. I hate the way that he talks about some of the other characters in the book. I hate the deception, and also I feel like there's a lot of things he does that are honestly like red flags for controlling relationships, like the way that he gets angry at Jane when she cries and like yells at her about it, the way that he like threatens that if she leaves him he's going to become a bad person again. Like, I just really, really hate Rochester, and that was one of the big things that made Jane Eyre just such an unpleasant reading experience for me. I know a lot of people who really love it. I have a lot of friends who love it. My sister loves that book. I get it. I just don't get it, you know? Next is Bernie Tomplin, your favorite best friends in books. So I actually went with a recent book that definitely has a standout friendship, I think. So I picked Unraveler by Frances Harding. Frances Harding is obviously one of my favorite authors. I will link the live show that Hannah and I did on this book down below. But our two main characters are Kellen and Nettle, and I absolutely love both of them, like separately, but also especially the way they balance each other. Like, their friendship I just think is like it's like one of the only solid things they have to hold on to, and I love the way that they just, yeah, like help each other, care about each other, the way that their strengths and weaknesses like balance each other's out so well. Like, I just really, really love this book, and I love those main characters as well. Next is Tiny Dancer, name 3 of your favorite OTPs or one true pairings. I love this question because I love a good ship in a book, and I'm actually realizing that all of these are pretty recent, which I feel like is good. So even though I have talked about these before, I don't think I've talked about them as much as, like, you know, Beatrice and Benedict, for example. So one of them is the romance from The Beautiful Ones by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. I have a whole spoiler-free review on this book. I will link that below. I just love these characters and the romance, and like, it is so, like, this is a very like character-focused story, but it's still so gripping because of the way Sylvia Moreno Garcia writes and the way that she does these characters and their relationships and like the romance and like these very messy people. Like, she's one of those authors who does like messy, unlikable characters in ways that I actually love and that I still find very engaging. Yeah, like I was so invested and stressed while reading this book, and I mean that in the best possible way. And then another one that I loved is The Romance from Little Thieves by Margaret Owen. This is just one of my favorite books in general. I talked about it extensively when I read it last year, I think. It's in my favorite books of the year video, and I love this relationship so much. It's one of those where like it's antagonistic, but there's like such deep respect for the other person as like an opponent and as like a strategist, and it's so slow burn and so good, and I don't want to give too much information away about it, but I loved it with all my heart. And then the other one that I want to mention is The Romance from Subversive by Colleen Cowley. I recently finished this trilogy, and Peter and Beatrix's relationship is so complex and so messy and so complicated, but it is handled beautifully. I've talked before, like, Peter is a character who has a lot of growing to do, and I can see some people not being on board for his arc. But for me, I think it was really well done, and I think it also helps that like he literally is spending the entire series trying to atone for the things that he's already done, and we also understand why in some of the things that he did, he was doing something bad to avert something even worse, you know? But I love, like, the tension between these characters is so good, and I think a sign of how well written this romance is that even after the relationship progresses to a certain point, I'm still really invested, and I am still like really just loving them as a couple. And in general, I pretty much lose interest once a couple like officially gets together. I like the build up, you know, and the anticipation and like the slow burn, and then once it actually happens, I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, and this is one of the only cases where that didn't happen for me. Next is Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me, a book that made you cringe terribly. And I had to pick The Taming of the Shrew by Stephanie Kate Strom. I think I might have read this 2 years ago. It was a year where I unfortunately read several really awful Shakespeare retellings, which was a bummer. Yeah, like I mean, I hated a lot of things about this book. I will link that like feature-length film of like my least favorite books if you want more information. But specifically the cringy parts were, for me, like, for one thing, the way that the like theater classes were talked about as like, there were so many parts that just felt like this is what I think people assume actors do, you know? Like, some of it was realistic, but a lot of it wasn't. But the actual, like, the main reason I picked it for this question is there are these, like, random skater boy characters, and the way they talk is, like, so embarrassing to me. Like, it really was, like, has this author talked to a teenager in the last like 30 years? Like, it was so embarrassing, and I thought they were just gonna be like a stupid one-off. No, they were like actually an entire subplot. There was like a romantic false lead there. Like, it was really embarrassing, and I was definitely cringing while reading that. I'm Still Standing. We're supposed to talk about a character or characters getting the courage to advocate for themselves and for others. I love that question, and I picked the main character from A Good Kind of Trouble by Lisa Moore Ramée. We're following a young girl who, her older sister has always been really active in like social justice movements. She's a big part of Black Lives Matter, and our main character is, I don't have the book with me, I'm sorry, or I would check characters' names, but our main character is kind of realizing throughout the book, like, she's always been very quiet and very reserved, and she's kind of realizing like the kinds of things that she stands for and what she will do to stand up for people, and how like people have different things to contribute to movements. And I just think that this character in this book fit this question beautifully, and this is a really fantastic and underrated middle grade book, so I would highly recommend it. Next is Rocketman. Name some overhyped or overrated authors. I'm gonna spare you the diatribe on Robin Hobb because I feel like I've been complaining about her a lot lately. So instead I'll talk about Leigh Bardugo. Even though I complain about her a lot, I feel like it's been longer. I still am gonna try King of Scars, and I did actually enjoy one of her short stories. I need to read her short story collection and King of Scars, and I think those are gonna be the only things I really try from her again, because those I think I have the best chance of liking. I've heard very mixed things I know about King of Scars, but it's about the only characters I care about. But I hated the Grisha trilogy. I thought it was really not done well. Like, there is just so much better fantasy out there in all age ranges. And then I was like so underwhelmed by Six of Crows. Like, I do think it was better than the Grisha books, which is what I had heard, but like people talk about like how deeply they love that book, and I just didn't get it. I actually realized I have a spoiler-free review on that one that I did quite a while ago, but I might link that. But yeah, like I thought the characters were super flat. I found this book incredibly boring. I know a lot of people love heist stories. I feel like I need like really compelling characters to get invested in a heist most of the time, and I just don't think these characters were done super well. I just don't really see what everybody else sees with Leigh Bardugo. And then the other one I wanted to mention is Rainbow Rowell. I have not read her books in years, but I had actually read several of them. And I think the main book I was thinking of for this is like Fangirl, because even though she has done other books that I have liked less and that have much bigger problems, you know, like Eleanor and Park, for example, the thing about Fangirl that bugs me is that like you can't get away from it, and the more time has gone on, the less I like it. It's probably one of the more disappointing contemporary books I've read. I just think it is, as the question says, incredibly overrated. And just Rainbow Rowell as an author in general, I kind of dread every time she has a new release because like you're just flooded with content about her. And then finally, the last question is your song, and that is to tag some of your booktube besties. I always have a hard time thinking of people to tag, so I might tag a couple of people in the description box who I think might like to answer these questions if you would like to. Of course, no pressure. And if you are watching this and you would like to do this tag, then I officially tag you. Now I'm going to jump into the concert book tag. As I said, this was originally created by As Read by Brooke, and I was tagged by Paige Screen Taylor. I love these questions, but I am like not at all a concert person, so this is gonna be fun. Number one is tickets, the most recent book you either bought or checked out from the library. And definitely one of the most recent ones is my copy of Strike the Zither by Joan Huh. And I did the thing where like you ordered from a specific bookstore that the author supports, like I think her local indie, and you got like a really cool like bookmark here, some beautiful art. There's also some on the other side that it says do not look until after you get to a certain point. And also you got it like personalized if you ordered it. So it has my name in it, which I think is pretty cool. This is a Chinese inspired fantasy that I think is very political. There's like found family, complicated relationships. I am so excited to get to this one, and I think that cover is gorgeous. Number two is The Crowd, a bookish community that you love. It can be in real life or in a book. I think this is such a hard question because just the online book community in general, I have so many good experiences with, but I did want to give a special mention to like everybody who participates in read-alongs that I am involved in. I just think you guys are, like, I love interacting with you. I love the enthusiasm you guys have for like, you know, Past It Classics or our Frances Harding read-along or our Artemis Fowl read-along if you've been watching me that long. And also the people, of course, who participate in things like Middle Grade Magic. It just makes me so happy to see more and more people, more and more adults, you know, picking up middle grade. So yeah, just thank you guys so much. Number three is Sing Along, a book that you quote every time you get the chance. So this is funny because, as I've said many times, I'm actually not great at saving quotes. Like, there are some lines that I really love, but I am really bad about doing anything about them. So I just went with a book where if a question asks me about a book that has beautiful writing or a book that has some great quotes, this is one that I think of a lot of times, and that is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. I know this is a very polarizing classic, but this is actually one of the ones that I come down on the positive side. I totally understand why people don't like this one. This is one of those books that I enjoy, but when people talk about why they hate it, I'm like, you're correct about all of these things. But I really do think the writing is so beautiful and so emotional. And like, I know that there are people who find this writing denser than Charlotte Bronte's and Jane Eyre, for example. And obviously, just because they're sisters doesn't mean they would write similarly, but I know that some people find Wuthering Heights to be overwritten in comparison. I had the complete opposite experience. I found Jane Eyre so dense and dull and long-winded, and just, I did not enjoy that writing style at all. Whereas with Wuthering Heights, I think it is so beautiful in the way that she conveys emotion and characters. And I think one of the reasons that this book works for me is that the writing is so lovely and personal that it can make you understand these really unpleasant people even if you don't like them, you know? Number four is Sold Out, a book that you're really looking forward to but just haven't read yet. And I am so frustrated with myself that I haven't read this yet. I picked Wildbound by Elaine Audrey Becker. This is the sequel and concluding volume to Forestborn. It's only a duology, so like I have no excuse for not finishing the series this year, but I don't know if it's gonna happen. But I really loved that first book, and I feel like it's a pretty underhyped series. And this is one of my most anticipated releases for the year. Have I read it yet? No. Why am I like this? Number five, The Band, a book or book series you love that you wish everyone would read, so you could fangirl about it together. So I actually went with kind of an author in general, and I know that I've talked about her for things like this before, but hear me out. Frances Harding, and specifically, like, not just because I love her and I feel like she's underhyped, but I feel like if more book bloggers like heard about her and gave her a chance, I think she could be a huge hit on BookTube. Like the kinds of worlds and the kinds of stories she tells and like main characters and like relationships, like I just like the things that she does are things that a wide range of readers on the bookish internet seem to really love and talk about. So I just want to tell people, like, she does these things. I think you would love her. That is like the whole reason that me and Hannah did our Frances Harding read along, is that we both love her and we want her to get more attention. Happily T. Kingfisher and Olivia Atwater, two other authors that I love, are starting to get more traction. So Frances Harding, it's time. Let's make her more popular in the US. Number 6 is Encore, a book that you wish had a sequel, or a book series that you wish had just one more book. And this is another one that I am realizing I kind of bent the rules a little bit again, because I picked Garlic and the Witch by Brie Paulson, and I don't just want one more book, I want like a bunch more. This is the second book in the Garlic and the Vampire series, and it's just an absolutely lovely, wholesome, adorable, cozy, without being like saccharine story. Like I love it so much. I love the messages, I love the characters, I love the art style. I just love everything about this. I am pretty picky about graphic novels, but these are easily some of my favorites, and I just want a bunch more. I don't know for sure if we're getting more, because I do feel like this volume ended at a good stopping point, but I would love if we got more. Number 7, Opening Act, a book that you weren't expecting to love as much as you did. And I'm going to go with Five Glass Slippers. I believe the editor is Anne Elizabeth Stengel. This is a bind-up of 5 novellas that are all retellings of Cinderella. And I enjoy fairy tale retellings, but Cinderella has never been one of my favorite fairy tales to read retellings of, but I enjoyed so many of these. There was only one story out of these 5 novellas that I actually didn't like. All of the others I really enjoyed, and actually my favorite was the sci-fi one, which I was like the least excited about, to be honest. I just was really impressed. These are all like very different feeling stories. I like the kind of take on Cinderella that these authors did, and I'm really excited to read the other like retelling collections that this author has edited, because I really, really enjoyed this first one. Number 8 is Merch Table, one piece of bookish merch that you either own or want to own. So I wanted to highlight these really, really gorgeous art pieces for Little Thieves by Margaret Owen. If you didn't know, Margaret Owen illustrates her own books as well, like the cover and like the chapter breaks that are these really beautiful illustrations. Those are by her too, which just seems like an obscene amount of talent for one person to have. But I love these so much. I believe these were, if you pre-ordered, I think it was a pre-order campaign. I love these art pieces. This is a Goose Girl retelling where you're actually following the maid character. And it just, oh my gosh, some of my favorite characters, one of my favorite romances. I love the atmosphere, I love the writing, I love the themes and the way this book is about like healing from trauma. I just think these are absolutely stunning, and I do keep them displayed on one of my bookshelves. Number 9 is Concert Friend, a book that you bonded with someone over. And I went with an author/series. I picked the Dauntless Path series by Intisar Kanani, and this is for my friend Hannah from Ball Gowns and Books. We were definitely already very good friends before I read these books, but I think this is one of the first books that like Hannah had gotten me to pick up, and that I just like brain dumped all of my feelings and thoughts on as I was reading, like when we were messaging back and forth. I feel like this was one of the starts of that tradition, I think. But yeah, I love this series. I love the way Intisar Kanani writes. I love her characterization. I love her themes. You're kind of seeing, you're probably seeing a pattern in books that I love. But yeah, like I had read Thorn, which is like connected to this duology. I've said this a few times before, but like you can read this series without reading Thorn first, but I did enjoy Thorn. But if you try that and it's not really your thing, I would still recommend giving this series a chance, because I think it's different enough that you might enjoy it. But I had read Thorn like many years ago when it was self-published, and it was a very different story at that time. It was much shorter, and I remember like liking it okay, but not having particularly strong feelings about it. And then when the spin-off series got picked up by a traditional publisher, Thorn also was like republished, and Intisar Kanani did like a massive rewrite of it. It was a very different story. It was much longer. So it was substantially different enough that I was like, yeah, I think I'd like want to try that again. But what really made me prioritize it was Hannah reading and reviewing that one. And I think that Theft of Sunlight as well I knew that that book was coming out, and it was on my list of releases to pay attention to because I was curious to try the author again. But what really like galvanized me to like actually like pick it up and start reading her again was Hannah's review. So thanks, Hannah. And we have had several conversations over that series and those characters and how much we love them. So I thought it was a good answer for that question. And number 10 is Tour Announcement, a book that you cannot wait to be released. So I picked one, like we don't even have a cover, we don't even have a release date. I think it might actually be coming out in 2024 now, which makes me really sad. But whenever Rosamund Hodge's next book comes out, I am so excited. I think we do have a title, but I can't remember what it is right now. But I love her writing, I love her stories. I know she's also very polarizing, but I have been loving her work. And this one is about, it's like a very loose, I think, dark Sleeping Beauty retelling where the princess, I think, like wakes up and she like kills the sorcerer who like put her whole kingdom under this curse. And then she realizes that she actually needs his help. So I think it's like her and like his ghost, or I don't know if she actually brings him back somehow, I don't know. But yeah, I think it's going to be fantastic. She hasn't let me down so far. Even with the book that like literally everyone hated, I really enjoyed. So I'm pretty hopeful about this one whenever we get it. I hope it's soon. Okay, so I am going to maybe tag a couple of people in the description box if you would like to do this, but of course also do this if you just would like to. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you soon with another video, and I hope you love the next book you read. Bye!